Hey, what's up guys, Gang Dragon here, and I welcome you all to cover up another weapon in the Payday 2 Armory. For today's episode, I'll be covering up the Swedish AK5. Now, despite the letter name of have the first letters AK, it does not have any resemblance to the E-Smash or the Russian AK family of rifles or mostly the firearms in general. It's completely different. I'll get to it later. The AK5 or Automatic Carbine 5, which is translate to Automatic Carbine 5 or automatic carbine, it's being a Swedish term for assault rifle. And essentially the AK5 is essentially a Swedish version of the FN-C, which is basically an FAL but fires a 5.56 by 45mm round. Yeah, quite an interesting concept because the FAL's barrel and feeding system was not designed for NATO standards of 5.56. So instead of trying to convert the FAL to fire 5.56, they went ahead and FN decided to make it a 5.56 version of it and call it the FN-C, and well, the Swedish kind of liked the design and well, came up with this. It was the AK5 was designed in 1982 by manufacturer, I'm probably gonna butcher it, Carl Gustav Stas Gievas Factory, which essentially it's basically it means rifle factory. So this is where the weapons manufactured. And the AK5 was designed to replace the AK4, which is essentially a Swedish version of the G3, of the German G3 battle rifle. Man, the Swedish love to copy from other weapons and make it their own versions of it. Well, I say Payday 2 is like a Swedish version of the movie Heat. They borrow a lot of reference to it. So that's quite an interesting history. Now I'm going to show you that this weapon has... Let's actually look at the stats first. We have the magazine of 30, total ammo 150, rate of fire 706 RPM, or I like to say close to 700 RPM, damage of 56, accuracy of 60, stability of 60, concealment of 18, threat of 14, and a reload time of 3.1 second. So this is a more, I say a very middle tier, very middle level of the medium damage assault rifles. It doesn't really stand out when compared to rest of its peers. There's not really much uniqueness to it, other than it's just like, well, a weapon does have a different stat, so it's almost like a reskin of some sort. A reskin of some sort, so I'm just going to go and compare it. That the AK5 has no resemblance to the AK. So I'll just show you just a little brief. Now you can see the design of the AK has the magazine release at the back, and the fire selector is on the right side. So of course, if you have it on safety, you can't charge the handle or the charging handle all the way to the back. If you have the fire selector on safety, which is you put it all the way at the top. And the iron sight is a little more different. And we can see the AK5 doesn't have that little magazine release on the back of the bag. It's actually it actually has more of a lower receiver of the AR-15 or FAL a little bit, but mainly the AR-15 from the M16. And the charging handle doesn't have that fire selector, because it doesn't have it on the right side. It's actually on this side. I'll get more in the detail of the gun later and see how this dust cover and the charging handle works. But the weapon I see a lot of people get confused for is the AK5 looks like a green version of a Galil, which I have the Galil right here. They look really similar to each other, especially with the stock, but I can tell you right now it's a little more different, because the Galil is actually borrowed of the AK design. You can actually see the magazine release is, of course, at the back here, and the fire selector is right on the right side, just like an AK-47. So it's definitely borrows a lot, and plus the upper receiver is just like an AK. It's just like the same shape of an AK. And one more thing. Now, I did say the AK5 is just like the F&C, which is basically an assault rifle version of the FAL. So I'll show you a little bit another similarity between the two, and it's the pistol grip. Mostly the fire selector. And it's basically the same style of a degree angle pistol grip, and when I look at the bottom, it's very a little bit almost like very hollow, like they don't have anything to look. It's like someone forgot to put a cap on that grip. And here's the FALs. You can see the fire selector. It's almost similar to the AK5, and the shape of the angle of that grip is a very similar degree angle. And as we look inside, it's like hollow as well. So, and of course, this weapon is definitely more comparison to a mix between an AR-15 and a FNC. So that I hope that really clears up the differences when it comes to naming of an AK weapon compared to the Soviet's AKs. Now we can actually get to look at the more detail of the gun. Well, but first, the variants I have. Now, of course, I did create one variant with this one. If you had the for example, the CQP barrel, the carbine Sears handguard, and the Caesar stock, you get basically you turn it into an AK5C. And of course, if I add this model attachment, which is the Belgian heat handguard, this is basically the F&C right here, with that style of handguard. Alright, now time for the, now the actual detail of the weapon. Alright, like you see, it's very nice. It's a nice green color to it, and of course, by the looks of it, it looks just like either a Galil of some sort, but of course I went to it, cover it up, it's almost similar, but it's not. Of course, we have our left side, we have a barcode right on the upper receiver, a barcode with the serial number, so it says 1KTG40885, and it looks like it's looks scratched off the barcode, and it looks like they forgot to take it off. Looks like this is like part of a in a shipping crate, and somehow the Payday must have got hold of these, and well, I guess they decided to scratch it off. I don't know. Of course, we have our fire selector. I'm guessing the white S, of course, is safe, and P is for fire. Fire, I'm not really sure. I didn't read a little bit much, but I'm guessing the P, I guess it's like I don't know, stand for. Like when you aim at a cops like and you select your fire follow, and you probably say, and you aim at it goes like pissed off fire mode. I think that's what it means. So you got S for safe, and P to piss off to the enemy. Of course we have our skeletal folding stock. It does fold to the right side, and as we make our way to the right, we have the charging handle, which sticks out a little bit of the 45-degree angle. And this dust cover is very unique. It's a Wooler back dust cover. So anytime the charging handle goes all the way back to the receiving end, the dust cover actually moves a bit up, and actually moves in a nice rotation. After all, this dust cover prevents any dirt, dust, or mud, or even snow out. It keeps it away inside the gun, and it's a really unique feature to it. I think it's really nice. It doesn't get in the way, and we're seeing this is probably the magazine release right here. This little big button. And you can probably recognize this style of the lower receiver. It's just like an AR-15. It's essentially the same because the magazine, that's basically the Stain magazine. It's the same magazine as the M16, so that's another resemblance. It borrows heavily of the AR-15 platform. And in terms of the iron sights, well, these are very, of course, a little different. I can't really do much with a controller. If it was a mouse, it would have been better. But and as I look at the rear sight by aiming like this, there's actually a backup. There's actually a flip-up sight. So the rear sight can be flip up for 2 different ranges. So I presume the one with the more thinner ring, which is this one here, these are more fitting for close quarters. And the ring that is more thicker was designed for long range, because this can be used as a marksman rifle, a designated marksman rifle, especially when you equip a certain stock to it. And also, the trigger guard has this weird rectangular shape, and the reason for it is for design for fitting gloves. Basically, winter gloves, since Sweden has, of course, it's a cold country. They do have snow, and I'm pretty sure they're one of the few cold countries in Europe to have basically lots of snow. So of course they would have to have some more protection against the cold, and especially and also having your gun ready in any condition. So they're more designed for of course very thick gloves or winter gloves. So they of course made this level, which doesn't get much in the way and is actually pretty nice. So this is definitely a reliable gun. Alright, let's get to the attachments. Now of course we got the CQB barrel, which of course was added during the Butcher mod pack, which of course was released during the big score update for console, which basically gives you all the benefit really funny enough, it does not decrease accuracy, which normally short barrels do. But in this case, not this one, and this one does more damage. You have any barrels, you can pick any barrel extensions you want. You can pick any boost, lock to either single fire or full auto. You can pick the two foregrips, which I of course went a bit over between the two. The carbine sears handguard increase the damage, stability, but minus concealment. And the Belgian heat handguard decreases stability, but increase the concealment. You can put on any gadget you want, and in terms of the gadget, when I put on a sight, it will be on this side. And funny enough, it doesn't look like there's any Picatinny rail here, so it just looks weird to see it like this. I think these are little holes here, like the four rectangular shape just on the handguard close to the barrel. That could be where they put the gadget here. But of course, if you have, I think one of these two here, yeah, if you have this handguard, you can see it has the reused added Picatinny rail accessory for the side. But with the Carabine's handguard, it has a Picatinny rail on the right side, so that's kind of unique. There's also a Picatinny rail on top to mount for foregrips in that. And of course we have our magazine, and since this has used the same M16 magazine, it has access to all the goodies. You have basically, of course you have the vintage mag, which almost looks like an FAL like this. Of course you have your quad stag mag, you have your speed pull mag. Of course you got a lot more variety with this. As for sights, of course, when you equip a sight, it actually comes with its own accessory rail on top. Of course, it's kind of unique, and well, by the looks of it, it does seem, of course, doesn't really block much of the iron sights. Yeah, I know there's a sight in the way, but considering that, by the look of it, you can see the rear sight still has a clearer view, and the Picatinny rail does not get in the way. And for stocks, we have the Caesar stock, which increases both stability and concealment, and the Bird T stock increased accuracy and -1 concealment. Of course, with this stock, it's basically it's designed for designated marksman role, where this little piece here, this little thick piece for the on the stock is called the chiqua. And what you do, you actually rest your cheek on here, and give you a nice comfortable position when you're prone to fire. And I noticed this stock, this piece chiqua, can be in the way a bit, and you notice it doesn't fit, does not work well with the iron sights. So this piece is essentially in the way of you aiming down the iron sights. So how the Payday 2 get training with this is beyond me, unless of course you use a sight. So of course if you use let's say like a ACOG sight for example, then yeah, this is basically where you want this stock to be. After all, it was designed for having long range optics and not the iron sight, so you could at least rest your cheek here and just aim through the scope with no problem. And of course I will show you, well, my fully decked out AK5 and one of my stoic builds with it with a 2-piece suit. So here's my AK5. Of course I have a larger magazine, a little bit more damage, a bit more accuracy, maximum stability. Basically drop the concealment up to half and a bigger threat. And by the looks of it, doesn't look too bad. Of course, lobbing looks a little bit out of place with the colors, but other than that, it looks at least much more of a normal gun compared to most of the weapons I create or customize with. And my stealth version, I don't know if I should actually include it during my testing, but here's the one I use, and by the looks of it, it looks like a much better stat. Especially with, of course, this one's more built for concealment, so of course I have the bigger, better suppressor, but everything else was just like increased concealment, and while the speed pull mag doesn't lose concealment, I can able to reload faster with this. And of course, I do love the AK5. I still think this is a really good assault rifle with the speed pull mag for concealed for console, because we don't have the F2000 or the TAR 21. If those weapons were in console, this would blow the AK5 out of the water for sure. But yeah, that's basically it for the AK5. Now let's see the Swedish meatball in action. Hey, welcome back to the firing range. And as we're about to fire with the AK5, I just want to admire this little beauty. Nice, very dark green. And definitely, this weapon is definitely not in the pickle. Alright, enough shenanigans. Let's get to some shooting. Ooh, you can actually see the cartridge inside. Oh, that's beautiful. Alright, going on. The grouping's not that bad, but of course when I fire full auto it goes all the way up and very much horizontal up to the left. And the iron sights are definitely not quite helping because, well, not only I have these two sights, but these little things on the rear, like a U shape, kinda disorientates, kind of make a block, but the purpose of those, the U shape of the rear sight, is to adjust the flip up sights, which sadly I can't do in this game since there's no options to do it because, well, of course, it's not really much big with the detail of the gun, but it's that I can't flip up the sight to switch to the marksman sight. Well, these one are more for close quarters. Alright, for test 2 would be, I'll see how the recoil goes without me controlling it whatsoever. Alright, here we go. So it does have some vertical recoil, and it goes up and a little bit to the right. I like how one of my bullets then hits the eye of that thing, and you can see it just, I think, about to disappear soon. It's definitely okay. For a weapon that shoots around 700 RPM, it does kick up quite a bit, so I expected it to go much more lower around here, but it went all the way up. Alright, test 3 would be, of course, trying to control the recoil this time. Going hot. It does seem to be bouncing quite a bit. As I tried to control it down, it went a little bit up to, of course, to the right, so I try to bring it back to the left. So it is pretty challenging with this, well, with the weapon until you get the right attachments, of course. And I'll show you the reload speed again and see how the speed pull mag looks. So I'll just fire more rounds. That is pretty badass, but that does cover. really is. And before I switch to the my fully decked out AK5, I'm gonna go through over a few guns because certain handguards does change up the iron sights. I'll show you what I mean in a second. Alright, here's the one of these. The attachments of the handguard does change up the front iron sights. As you can see, they don't have that little hooded ring front post, and when I aim, it looks a lot more clear this time. So it looks a little bit better. Now I'm not gonna do the other tests with this. I'm just showing you the different iron sights on these. So let's get to it. It's still roughly the same, although there is much more clear to have. So of course I do like these style of sights because having the front posts very thin allows me to acquire my targets more efficiently, and probably even more better if I increase my weapon stat with more accuracy. Alright, I'll show you the final the third and last handguard that does change the iron sights. I'll equip it out in a second. Alright, so this is actually my stoic build with this one, where I have it for concealment, but I do have the iron sight that's a lot more different compared to the rest of the handguard. So this is more definitely like the FNC, and of course I do have a laser sight, but I decided I won't to use it. And you can see the iron sights are a little bit more spread out and look a little bit longer, but also a little more spread out. So these are essentially the exact same iron sights you will see on the FAL or FNC. So I'll try it again. So yeah, the iron sights are a lot more clear, and I have to say, I really dig these sights. These are definitely, I say, way better than the default iron sights, and better than the handguard, which I do use an optic for. This is at least a good sight to have, especially when you're going for crits and you're just relying on your iron sights to able to aim better. So these are really good sights. Alright, time to show off the my fully decked out AK5. I'll whip it up in a second. Alright, here we are with the final time at the fire range with the AK5. And here's my fully decked out one. It's pretty menacing looking. So let's see how it goes. Not bad grouping. Let's see about full auto. Well, I could say to this, it is much more controllable. It really climbed up slowly before it reached the pipe before it went over. And now let's see about the well, test 2. I'll show you what it's like without controlling the recoil. And bear in mind, I'm holding 60 rounds, so it doubles up my magazine capacity. So you're gonna expect a lot more bullet hosing. Going loud. well, of course, it has the has some vertical recoil. It did move a little bit to the right and continued its way to the top, and does went over the pipe. Now, of course, the first time I did with this, it didn't go past the pipe because I did fire single shots, which I did waste a couple rounds, but I did fire the whole 60 rounds. I should have enough bullets, just in case. I'll just grab some more ammunition. So that way, I don't have to worry about I'm actually at 40 or 30 rounds. So, okay, you know what? For test 3, I'm always gonna put it in the center this time, instead of all the way to the right. So, I'll see the best result I can do. Now, for test 3, I'll try to control the recoil. Alright, let's do this. Well, it is a lot more controllable than I anticipated. Of course, every time it definitely when it moves up, I just go down just quite a bit until when it goes up again, I just pull it down. So it does really have some controllable recoil, since I have maximum stability, so you don't really need any much of the skills, although having the accuracy skill is still nice to have. And of course it helps because I have a sight which is much more clear than the iron sights. It's pretty damn good. Alright, now it's time to give you guys my final opinion on the AK5. I'll see you in the conclusion. Overall, the AK5 is a very interesting gun, because this is well, at its time, it was definitely brand new to me to see something like this, and I thought that's basically gotta be the Galil, but it's not. And, you know, about a year later, they added the Galil in 2014, and of course, that's on PC, and of course, console have the Galil in the Crime Wave edition when it was released in June 2015. It's a pretty, I would say, definitely an average assault rifle, probably due to its rate of fire, and in terms of its attachments of any uniqueness to it, it's not really much. And it probably doesn't help that it does not have like some sort of DMR kit, which definitely is not up there with the AR family and the AK family of rifles. And if I had to make one comparison to this weapon to another in its class, the other comparison would be the AK-74. And you can see by the stats, it's quite awful, just for the base version. So it has a slower rate of fire, much more lower accuracy, and much more really awful concealment. But here's the thing. The AK-74 has a lot more attachment option than the AK-5. It has a DMR kit. It has different types of magazine, of course, as well. It has different grips and a lot more different stock options and a lot more foregrip option that either give you more accuracy, stability, or more concealment, and the damage can be increased as well. So if I had to compare to, in terms of concealment, between these two, which I have done for just maximum concealment with stealth as much as I can. You know, of course, I don't have the skills with the concealments, but this is just for example. It's pretty good so far. It looks pretty nice. And then when I have the AK-74, it has a little bit more concealment to it. That's basically the only differences. So the AK-5 definitely has way more. It has a higher rate of fire, a little bit more accuracy, about 8 accuracy, and only -1 concealment as opposed to the concealed AK-74 I have with my stoic builds. Now, if I had to pick between these two, I'm definitely put my hands on the AK5. Just because it just has a much higher rate of fire and is able to reload a little bit quicker too. That's also a big factor considering these two weapons have the speed pull mag. It's still a fun gun, I still enjoy using it from time to time. But just like the MAC-10, it's not really my favorite assault rifle. It's fun to use, but I'm pretty sure there's better. There's just that there's so many other assault rifles I have grown fond to. The AK5 is definitely good. Maybe if I get a little bit more time, it's probably gonna be my favorite weapon. But considering that it's been almost similar to other weapons in terms of its looks, appearance, and stat-wise, it's really hard to give this weapon a little bit of its own identity. But after all, this weapon is made an appearance in, well, first appearance in the video game, which is Payday 2. But yeah, that's it for the AK5, and thank you for watching, everyone. Until next time, farewell, and have a wonderful day, everyone.